All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in.
Today, we're tackling something that's pretty crucial in healthcare tech these days, and that is FHIR server security.
FHIR server security, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, FHIR, pronounced fire. And we're going to be looking at some excerpts from a text that focuses on AuditEvent and Provenance in FHIR servers.
Okay.
So basically, we're trying to answer the question, who did what and when it comes to the data in these servers?
Right.
And, it might sound a little dry, but believe me, this is important stuff.
Oh, absolutely it is. Especially when you consider just how much sensitive health information is stored in these servers. I mean, we're talking medical records, lab results, you name it.
Right. It's like, you really don't want that information falling into the wrong hands.
Exactly.
So one of the things that really stood out to me when I was reading this research is that FHIR servers are, by default, wide open.
Yeah, the text actually uses the phrase wide open to describe them.
Yeah, wide open.
And, it's kind of alarming when you think about it, like leaving the doors and windows of your house unlocked.
It is, yeah. And, while there are tools out there, things like Smart on FHIR to help with authorization and stuff, the responsibility for, making sure that these servers are really secure, it falls on the user.
Right. At the end of the day, it's up to the people managing these servers to make sure that the appropriate security measures are in place.
No pressure. Right.
Right, no pressure at all.
But in all seriousness, knowing who accessed or changed data in a server and when they did it, that's critical.
Yeah, and the text emphasizes that a lot. Without that level of tracking, you have no idea what's happening to your data.
Right.
And then if something goes wrong, you can't go back and figure out what happened, who did it, it's a mess.
Yeah. So let's talk about the two key FHIR resources that this research really digs into.
Okay.
AuditEvent and Provenance.
Yes. So think of AuditEvent as a detailed logbook of every action that takes place in the server. Like who accessed what resource, when they did it, what changes they made, if any.
Okay, so like a security camera almost.
Exactly like a security camera.
And then what about Provenance?
Provenance is more about the history of the data itself. So where did it come from? Who's handled it along the way? Any modifications that have been made?
So AuditEvent is the who did what and when, and Provenance is like the data's backstory.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that, a data's backstory.
And together they paint a really complete picture of what's happening inside the server.
Now, the research lays out some pretty tough questions that anyone who's responsible for a FHIR server should be asking their tech team. And, they're not comfortable questions to ask, but they're important.
Oh, they're very important. And it might be tempting to just assume everything is fine, but you really can't afford to do that.
Right. So first up, can you definitively identify the individual who accessed a particular resource in your FHIR server?
And that means like their name, their login, the time of access, all of that.
Yeah, no room for ambiguity.
Exactly.
Okay. And then the next question is, how are you controlling access to the AuditEvent resources themselves?
Yeah.
To prevent any tampering.
Right, because you don't want someone going in and changing the logs after the fact.
Right. That defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. So you need robust security measures in place to make sure those logs are tamper-proof.
So it's like, having a security camera, but then the footage can be edited by anyone. It's like, that doesn't really help, does it?
No, not at all. The logs need to be trustworthy.
Okay, and then where are those audit records kept? Are they secure? And are they separate from the data that they're meant to protect?
Because again, if they're not separate, someone could potentially access the data and the logs at the same time, and then, what's the point?
So keeping those things separate is key, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about identifying who's accessing, preventing tampering, keeping those records safe. What else should we be grilling our tech team about?
Well, can you guarantee that every single update to a resource is accompanied by a provenance record?
Every single one, no exceptions.
No exceptions.
Okay, and how do we know that the provenance is accurate? How do we know it actually identifies all the parties that were involved in creating or modifying that data?
And is it linked to a specific version of the resource so you can track the changes over time?
Oh, so you can see like version 1, version 2, version 3, who did what at each stage.
Exactly. It's all about that detailed history.
Okay, and now for the question that I think might make a lot of people sweat.
Uh-oh.
Can someone bypass all of these safeguards? Using tools like Postman.
Yeah, that's a really important question, and it's one that a lot of people don't want to think about.
Right.
Because the reality is that no system is 100% foolproof.
Right, so it's not about being paranoid. It's about understanding the potential risks and being proactive.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today.
I think so too.
We've only just scratched the surface of this whole world of FHIR server security and data integrity, but hopefully we've given our listeners some good questions to ask and some things to consider.
Absolutely. And the key takeaway is that you can't just assume that your data is safe. You need to be proactive. You need to ask the tough questions.
And you need to make sure you're getting the right answers. So listeners out there, are you confident that your FHIR server is truly secure? I'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See you next time.